In this video, we're going to learn how to create and manipulate geometry in 3ds Max. Alright, so let's go ahead and create a new scene. So I'm going to go up to the top and I'm going to hit New Scene. And I'm just going to say New All and hit OK. Let's hit Alt-W on our perspective view and Z just to frame that in there. And let's learn how to create geometry. So to create geometry, we're going to go over to the Command panel and we're going to go to the Create tab or Create panel, Geometry, Standard Primitives, and let's choose a box. Notice that box is highlighted in blue, so that lets us know that we are in creation mode of this box. And there are two creation methods with a box. We can create it as a cube, and if we left click and drag that out, it will drag out a box and we're done. We can right click and end that. We have a perfect cube already created. Now we have the other mode, which is box mode, and this will take a couple more clicks. So we're going to left click and drag out the base of our box, and then we're going to release that. We're going to drag up the height and then left click, and that will create a box. So just one more click in that, just a different way of creating it. Let's right click to end that creation process. With this box selected, I'm going to go ahead and hit delete. Let's create a different object. Let's go to our sphere and let's left click and drag that in. You'll notice the sphere is very easy to create. It's one click, just drag it out. Let's right click and let's go to cone, and I'm going to left click and drag out the base of our cone. I'm going to release that to get the height of the cone, and then I'm going to click one more time and then drag in to determine how pointy I want that cone to be. So let's make it just like a cone should be, and we're going to left click and then right click and end that creation process. So now that we've created these objects, what I want you to do is I want you to spend a little bit of time creating some of these other standard primitives. Get some practice with that, and get really good at it, because whenever we start modeling, we're going to create these things very quickly to get us started with the particular objects that we want to make. So now that we've talked about creating them, let's talk a little bit about manipulating them. So when I'm talking about manipulation, I'm talking about moving and rotating and scaling them. So to move an object, all we need to do is have the object selected, and then we're going to hit W on the keyboard, and that will bring up the Move tool. Now you can also click on the Move button right up here at the top. We also have Rotate, which is E on the keyboard, and then we have Scale, which is R on the keyboard. You could use either method to make that work. So let's go back to the Move tool. Let's hit W, and let's move this cone to where it's on top of this cube. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the Z axis. I'm going to left click and drag this up, and it looks like it's on top there, and then I'm going to move it in the Y direction and then move it in the Z direction. Okay, so that looks like it's on top. Now whenever we're moving and rotating and scaling objects, it's a good idea to orbit around your object. So hold down the Alt button and the middle mouse button and drag, and you can confirm whether that is on that cube or not. Now you don't have to move in one single axis at a time. You can move it multiple axes at a time. So if you want to move along the X and the Y, simply hover over the handle that connects the two and left click and drag. Notice that it's highlighted in yellow, and that will allow you to move in both directions. We could do this on any axes. So we could do this on Z and Y. We could also do it on the X and Z. Now you'll notice this little square right here in the middle. What that will allow you to do is to move the object in the parallel direction that the viewport is looking. Okay, so that might help you move objects around. Normally what I tend to do is I tend to move based on the axes, and I'll do a biplanar movement. Now let's move over to the rotation tool. Let's hit E on the keyboard, and you'll see that the rotation gizmo is spherical shape, but we have three axes. We have X, Y, and Z. Those will allow us to rotate in any direction, okay, based on that. And then we can left click right here in the middle of the gizmo, and we can freely rotate that in any direction that we want. All right, perfect. So now let's talk about scaling an object. Let's say that I want to scale my ball or my sphere down. I'm going to left click and select that, and let's go to the Scale tool, or we could hit R on the keyboard, and we can scale this object. Now we can scale in any direction, or we can scale in all directions. To scale in all directions, we'll simply left click and hold right here in the center, and drag that down. It does a uniform scale. Now if we scale that down and then we grab just the z-axis, notice that it scales it in just that axis alone. Do the same thing for the y, and now we have this disc shape here. Looks like a piece of candy or something like that. And then we could push it in or out on the z-axis and make it really flat, or we could elongate that to make it look kind of like an egg. All right, so that's how scale comes into play there. Now, whenever we start moving and rotating and scaling objects, there's a little bit more to it than that. Whenever we start working with particular shapes, like we're going to be creating a spaceship for our project, we're going to need to learn how to edit the object at its sub-object level, like vertices or edges, polygons, and things like that. So that's what we're going to talk about next.